All right. Hello, everybody. We're back. There was a weird internet thing that happened,
We
and
broke
there
the
was like
internet.
a blip. Um, but I see folks. So wherever you are, we're connected again. YouTube, Facebook. I'm just gonna we'll give folks a little bit
Of
to
time.
connect back in. Um, uh, yeah. Yep. So, uh, yeah. So we'll just give folks a little bit to connect back in. I think some people are connected. Yes.
Feels like some people are connected. And
Cool. Yeah. All right. People are connecting. Cool. All right. So we'll continue. We'll continue where we were. Um, maybe because I was stepping on people's toes. I
yeah,
don't know. Right.
yeah. All good. The energy was flowing so powerfully.
So what I was saying, and so it's this piece where any education that prepares people for only success and not for coping with the frustration of things going wrong is sadly deficient. And that is absolutely true as it relates to the spiritual life. Again, we learn these laws, we practice these laws, we master this consciousness so that we can move through the situations, so that we don't freak out when the job loss shows up, so that we don't freak out when our bank account doesn't look like what it looked like a couple months ago,
Mm-hmm.
so we don't freak out when the breakup happens, so we don't freak out when the sickness shows up, so we don't freak out when any unwanted event shows up. This is what we do. So in the same consciousness, as it's true with spiritual teaching, it's true with all teaching. It simply succeeds in inhibiting a large number of people from attempting ventures where failure is a possibility, which severely cripples this creativity and imagination. And again, what happens in this context spiritually, then this is why people bury their heads in the sand.
Yep.
This is why, as we just talked about 45, this is why then you don't want to look at anything that seems bad. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to look about it. I don't want to say anything about it. I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm going to keep talking about this other thing because I haven't learned how to use these teachings to move through challenges, that I haven't
Yes.
learned how to use these teachings to reverse challenges or adversity.
And really, that's the only reason that we have so many tools is so that we can practice using them in situations,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's
Mm-hmm.
not that one thing works for all things.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that one thing that works for all things is knowing that we're connected to the one mind, power, and presence. And we
Absolutely.
use different tools to bring ourselves back into awareness of that is the truth,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so any challenges, anything in the external world that we see is not the cause, it is the effect. And so we go to the power that we have,
Yes, yes.
right? The power that we've been given.
Yes, yes. Yes, yes.
And so you're never dismayed.
Never.
You might be temporarily disappointed or sad or any of those emotions that the human being experiences.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But then you bring yourself back, as I like to say, the bounce back. I bounce
Absolutely.
back. I
Absolutely.
don't deny that I have those, but
Absolutely.
I bounce back.
Yep. Yep. That's real. That's real. And so he goes on, one of the most challenging reverses that we ever have to deal with is unemployment, right? The important thing is not being unemployed or even being employed that makes the difference in our lives, but how we accept these conditions, the attitudes, the feelings, the general tone of our consciousness as we face the experience. Right? There are some employed people who live in a constant fear of being laid off.
Mm.
And there are people out of work who have complete confidence that it is a transition which will lead inevitably to betterment. The people who have jobs and are constantly afraid they will be dismissed are already blocking their flow. They
Yes.
are setting a time bomb that will go off at some future time, perhaps not in the actual loss of their jobs, but in some frustration in the job or in some kind of financial stringency.
Mm-hmm.
The sad thing is that many persons who are unemployed have become unemployable because they have allowed the idea of lack and inactivity to become established in their consciousness. Unemployment and the self pity and bitterness associated with it become an obsession that blocks the activity of reemployment or the reinfusion of the of the substance flow. The first need is not to find a job, but to change the self image, to resign from enlistment in the army of the unemployed. Don't
Yes.
see yourself as unemployed, but as ready for work, right? There's so much good stuff here.
Mm.
So much good stuff here. And we're receiving messages from many people. We know that folks, as some folks are getting back to work, other people, they've been downsizing. Even, you're working for a while and things change. There's a lot going on. What's so important is to move into this consciousness of I am ready for work.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not unemployed.
Right. And if I'm ready for work, that means I'm ready for new opportunity. Maybe it's something else that I never even considered
Mm-hmm.
doing before. I know that's happened in my own life,
Mm-hmm.
right? I had the initial feeling of, oh, I ain't gonna say the word. What do I do now?
Mm-hmm.
But when I got still and listened, it was taking me in a completely different direction.
Mm-hmm.
One that I was unwilling to admit that I really wanted. One that I was unwilling to admit that I was tired of being where I was,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm. Right. My life has taught me every time that I experienced a layoff, it created a better situation for me.
Every time.
Every time.
I might not feel it in the moment, but as I look back on it, and
Mm-hmm.
so now I take what I learned, I take that divine memory that I've learned from those previous experiences
Mm-hmm.
so that I don't freak out
Yep.
the way I used to.
And you can live in the nothing but good will come from this. Nothing but good will come from this. As long as you are unemployed, air quotes, you will tend to identify with the Labor Department statistics
Mm.
showing things to be so bad that it might even be foolish to look for work. However, if you are ready for work, you're in an entirely different ball game.
Right. The Labor Department has labeled you as unemployed.
Right.
Mm.
Right. And that's the thing, and it's so interesting, particularly now and for the rest of the year, right? These unemployment numbers, they're going to be in the millions. They're going to keep talking about it. It's going to be a focus, particularly in terms of the election. And it's important that you don't that you have a consciousness that allows you to hear those numbers without becoming a part of those numbers, right? In consciousness. I'm not even talking about becoming a part in terms of being
Mm-hmm.
unemployed, but just becoming a part of the fear behind it,
Mm-hmm.
becoming a part of the worry behind it, becoming part of the seeming permanence behind it, becoming part of that downward spiral, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he
And
goes,
so
yeah.
instead of becoming part of the statistics, maybe you become part of the council of consciousness that says nothing but good can come from this for everyone that is right now unemployed, not just
Mm-hmm,
me. See, because when you take the focus off of you, then you put your focus where it collectively can do some good,
mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm,
So I see what's happening out there in the world, and our prayer champions do this every day.
mm-hmm,
Take the focus off of themselves, put the focus on the truth
mm-hmm.
for themselves and everyone else.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And so in this next section, he offers a very practical advice. If you've never done this, I encourage you to do it. And of course, you can share this with others it's appropriate. That when you're ready for work, then you operate in that consciousness, right?
Mm-hmm.
You treat that job search just as if it were your employment, right? You go to bed at a decent time. You set your alarm. You get up. You get up early. He says, pack your lunch, get neatly dressed, set off enthusiastically and expectantly in your work or finding a job. The important thing, work at it. See it as a challenge to your faith and determined to grow through the experience, right? And I wouldn't say a challenge to your
Yeah, I
faith,
was going to say
but
that
grow in the
as an
sense of
opportunity to
right,
grow.
an opportunity to grow your faith, right?
Yeah, or focus your faith.
Right. Remember, we said that your muscles, you're not going to get new muscles,
Yeah, you're
right? When
just
you're
going
working
to
out, you're
improve
going
the
to
ones you
grow,
have.
you're going to expand them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Very important. Don't listen to the advice of the crepe hangers, what Psalm 1 calls the counsel of the wicked or unconscious. They will be singing the perpetual dirge, no jobs to be had. Recession is inevitable at your age, and so on. But here's the truth. You are a whole person in a
Yes.
whole universe.
Yes.
You are an individualized expression of the creative flow. There is something that you can do that no one can do quite as uniquely as you. You are needed even as you have a need.
Yes.
Spiritual principle right here.
Yes.
I talked about duality, right? As we just talked about success and failure. Well, here's another truth of duality. If there's a need, there's provision.
Yes.
The need can't exist if the provision doesn't exist. Just like up can't exist if down doesn't exist. Left can't exist if right doesn't exist. They depend on each other. So, in the same way, you are needed even as you have a need.
Yes.
This is why the song says, all that I have needed, your hands have provided.
Mm-hmm.
Right? This is where the beauty and the truth of that hymn comes from, because you are needed even as you have a need. That's law, that's principle.
And then you never get upset that you have a need. Some people are even afraid to ask because they're afraid to be in that
Mm-hmm.
vibration that they think about need.
Mm-hmm.
That just means that somewhere I am needed.
Mm-hmm. That's what it means.
That's all it means.
That's what it means.
And so I get to answer that call with
Mm-hmm.
my skills, my talents, my abilities.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so that puts me in a different vibration around this unemployment.
Yep.
I'm ready to provide and fill a need. That's what I'm ready to do.
Yep. Yep. And so you can affirm, or even in your prayer, you're saying, just as I know there is up, I also know there is down, then I know that, that this need is provided, right? Use what you know to be true, and it's the same principle, it's the same law, and that's how you speak it. He goes on, keep that vision of the orderly universe. It is not a miracle that is needed to create a job for you, but an expression of divine order in bringing you together with that which is looking for you.
Right. And if there's any miracle that is needed, it is a shift from fear to love. It is a shift in thinking about who and what you are, that you have gifts, skills, and talents that are needed.
Right? Y'all know the song? You can go listen to it on YouTube later. Right? Right? Everything I seek is seeking me. What I desire is desiring me. So what can I do? I can let go of doubt. I can let go of worry because it's going to find me. It's already looking for me. That's
Yes.
principle, not just a fun song to sing, right?
And it's beautiful that we have these songs to continue to support us in learning these things. But it's not just words, y'all. These songs were created from a vibration to support a vibration.
There is a divine mind counterpart for every human need. There is an answer for every problem, substance for every financial requirement, a job for every willing worker. The economic indicators will not tell you this.
Yes.
Right? Very important. He goes on, I'm here at the bottom of the page. There is an innocuous phrase used often in the Bible. It came to pass. It has a subtle inference that can be extremely meaningful to you. The problem or financial reversal did not come into your life to stay.
Yes.
It came to pass. Whatever the challenge, refuse to be panic stricken. Life hasn't ended for you. It flows on in a healing and prospering stream. In the face of any challenge, affirm, I accept the reality of this situation, but not its permanence.
Right.
I'm going to put that up on the screen. We have a slide somewhere. I think I have a slide for it because I want you to, whatever you need to do, screenshot it, make sure you can see it. I accept the reality of this situation.
Right. I accept what is,
but not its permanence.
but not its permanence.
And again, this is how we hold things from a spiritual, metaphysical consciousness. We do not bury our heads in the sand. We do not act like racism doesn't exist in this country, right? I don't see color. We don't live there. No.
Right.
Right?
You have to identify that there is something. Right? There's a situation. We don't get delusional. We don't bury our head. We see it, but we know it's not permanent.
Absolutely.
Just like no thought is permanent. No effect of a thought is permanent.
Absolutely. 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 And so that's the vibration that we live in. That's the vibration that we move in. Right? And so I love
That's the
this
meat
piece.
of this chapter.
Right.
That's it right there.
The experience is there to be met. There is no use hiding your head in the sand. Just said that, right? However, determined to meet it on your terms. Don't let the outer happening squeeze you into its box, but open your mind to the flow of wisdom and love and good judgment, which you can deal masterfully with it. It has come to pass. Accept it, but accept it as a changing experience that is on its way out. Something better is on the way for you. Accept it. This is on its way out.
Right. These are the terms and conditions.
Right.
That we focus on. It's on its way out. There's something coming in its place, and it's better than what I've ever experienced before.
Right. And that's a consciousness, again, in this context of where we are in life right now. When we think about racism, part of what's happened is that because there was so much delusion, because there was so much burying of the heads in the sand
and suppression,
that so many people were speaking from the permanence of it, right? See, this is real, this is real, this is real, this is a reality. Racism is a reality, racism is a reality. Without also talking from this perspective of, and it's on its way out.
Right. And how do we mobilize, right? How do we do the things to help it on its way out?
Right. Which I believe is what the consciousness is now.
Yes.
Which is what's I think being outpictured in the mass consciousness and the massive movement of people that's showing up. For instance, in meeting the experience of unemployment, normally there is fear, self-pity, a sense of insecurity. It is important to understand that this comes from a subtle acceptance of the permanence of the condition. If you hold the thought that it has come to pass, seeing it as a moving experience, suddenly your confidence, is restored, along with your feeling of oneness with the divine flow. Like, think about it, right? Maybe you're a person that, if you have to get shots or you have to get your blood drawn, it's not something that you like, or, as a kid, maybe it was something that you didn't like. And, one of the things the doctors will say, oh, this will only take a second, right? Or the nurse will say that, right? That's another way of, and it came to pass. They're letting you know, okay, this might be uncomfortable. You
For a
might not
second.
like it,
Yes.
but this is not permanent. And so you're like, okay, right?
And then there's a softening to what we see
Yes,
with the belief of what's coming,
absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
That happens. Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And if you fight against it, you tense that arm up, it makes it even worse.
Yep. Yep. And so I'm going to just move down to this next highlight because I'm looking at our time. Um, Butterworth offers this wonderful idea of how we can hold things that show up in our life. If this resonates with you, awesome. If it doesn't, it's all good. But I think this is something that can be helpful. He says a much better word to employ when referring to some kind of challenge is project. Note that what happens when you say, I have this project. It makes all the difference in the world. The word project suggests a positive endeavor of development. There's a tendency to deal with a problem with tension and strain, and the only a miracle can save me now consciousness. We tackle a project such as putting a man on the moon with vigor and imagination and the conviction that it will be done. What life projects do you have before you in your life? Now, the reason I say if this resonates with you, because one of the things that I note that's very interesting, Eric Butterworth is male, right? And this actually is a very masculine way of thinking. It can be beneficial, but I think instinctively this is something that can be helpful for most men, right? Instead of for instance, if a woman comes to a man and says, we have a problem, can we talk? Right? He's gonna immediately like get defensive and want to shut down. Versus this idea of there's a project I like us to work on together, right? Then all of a sudden that's something he can win at. That's something, and so this word appeals to our masculine aspect. But I must recognize and acknowledge that if this doesn't appeal to you, that's probably why, right? Because that's what that appeals to. Now, the masculine aspect of all of us is that externally doing aspect of ourselves. It is that thing that fixes things, right? We all have that aspect within us, and so that's why it's here. But I recognize that as Eric Butterworth is a man, that's why that resonated with him and why he shared it in this
And for
piece.
some, the idea of a project may feel like it's belittling to what's happening in your situation. And that's not what he's trying to do. He's trying to put it in a manageable way that you can do something about it. Because if we spin in the problem long enough, the energy around the problem long enough, we never get to concrete action. We never let go of our fear to hear inspired ideas. So he's not trying to belittle what's happening in your life. He's trying to make it manageable.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And something that can be solved, right? So again, something you can win at, right? And you can feel proud of when it's accomplished, right? So it's awesome. I love it. Project works for me. I see folks, it's resonating with a lot of people, and that's good. And I just, I think that context is wonderful
Yeah, it's needed.
and beneficial,
Yeah.
right? I think we're going to leave it there because, I think we can leave it there because, as PY said, the meat of this chapter is really that piece, and it came to pass. That affirmation: I accept the reality of this situation, but not its permanence, and that's a beautiful way to. I'm not even that. I'm being woo woo when I say beautiful. No, that's how we have to hold it, right? It's not even about being. Whether it's beautiful or not is not even the point, right? It's like if you don't learn to hold it that way, that's what's going to cause a lot of pain. When we don't learn to hold it that way, that's what causes frustration. When we don't learn to hold it that way, that's what puts us in despair and all is lost, and we feel like our back is against the wall, and then we begin to lash out. Any situation in our life, it is impermanent.
Impermanent. Any situation.
Any situation, right? And this is again why we talked about even our successes. We don't get too far out.
We don't get too far out in our
there, right? And definitely in temporary defeat, we don't either, right? Because we know temporary defeat. It's temporary, right? And so this is so incredibly important, so incredibly important.
Right. About any kind of financial adversity, any
Yes,
kind of experience that you would consider adversity in your life. It came to pass.
absolutely, absolutely.
It's not permanent.
Yes, yes. And so with that, as I said, we move on to the next chapter, chapter 8. You can feel free to, as you're reading chapter 8 this week, questions that come up, email us. We'll incorporate that into next week's class. Um, it is time now for giving. And so we here at CSC, we are very clear, right, that we give what feels good. And why
Yes,
do we
yes.
say that, right? We don't do that out of some kind of magical thinking, but what we recognize is how the law works, right? That what we focus on expands, right? And so if we're giving from a place of fear, guilt, shame, shoulds, or being in trouble with ourselves, or thinking you're going to be in trouble with the church or the pastors or any of that kind of stuff, all of that energy is placed on the money that you just gave, right? And it's not that you're going to pass that energy on to CSC, but then that energy is what's going to be stirring in your own life. So
Right.
we are clear that we want you to give what feels good. We want you to give that amount that's absent of shame, that's absent of guilt, that's absent of fear, that's absent of any of those things, because that is how you will experience the abundant blessing of giving. The law of circulation is real, it works. And so we encourage you, you can go to our website. The information is here on the screen, celebrationsc.org/give. You can also text to give, 347-744-9500. The minimum text to give amount is $10 due to the fees and things that are associated with that service. But again, what's important is it's your joy number.
It's your joy number.
Right? Whatever that is. I have my joy number. I give my joy number weekly. And because I'm living in my joy number, I usually end up giving more above and beyond my joy number. But that I have that set. You can set a recurring donation if you'd like. I have that set. That happens every week. And then I can give above and beyond because I'm reaping the benefits of giving my joy number. Right? That's how it works. That's how it works. And so when we do that, when we give what feels good, when we identify and give our joy number and give from our joy, then we affirm all the money that I use,
All the money that I use
returns to me multiplied
returns to me multiplied
in a never-ending cycle
in a never-ending cycle
of increase and enjoyment.
and enjoyment.
And so we say amen.
Amen.
We say ashe.
Ashe.
We say and so it is.
And so it is.
It is so good to be here with y'all. There was, again, I think everybody's back here, but we were just an internet blip and it kind of messed us up, but we're back.
Even those blips are not permanent.
Look
at that.
Right, even not permanent. So we love y'all. We love seeing y'all. Again, we're seeing, I'm looking at the comments now and just seeing so many of you are here and excited and engaged. Let's stay that way so that we can be the light in the world, so that we can be the light in our families, so that we can be the light in our places of employment, because there's so many opportunities and so many calls for love, and we're answering the call.
Answering the call.
All right, y'all.
Love you.
Bye for now.
Bye for now.